Hey, Brandon from Lanyap here. So today we're going to be terminating Cat6 cables. The cabling is mostly used indoors, running it through walls, running it through attics for internet connectivity. The Category 6 cable is going to be very similar to the Category 5e cable. The 5e cable maybe can't run as far as the 6. It doesn't have as much power as the 6 might have as far as the data throughput. There are also other category cables like Cat7, Cat8. We don't really use those. Those aren't really proven out in a way that Cat6 and Cat5e have been. So yeah, we're going to focus in on Cat6 cable and we're going to get it terminated. So when you're terminating a Cat6 cable, you're going to need a few tools, which I have here. The first thing you're going to need is the RJ45 connectors. So an RJ45 connector looks like this. This is a pass-through connector. There are pass-through and non-pass-through. I generally use the pass-through connectors. I buy them in big buckets like this. And then I go out and get a Klein Tools pass-through terminator, right? And so you can actually see here, this will terminate the RJ45s, which are these guys, and the RJ11s, which is a phone line. So this is a Klein tool, pass-through termination tool. And then I have copper scissors. Copper scissors are just going to help with cutting through the copper cabling of the wire. So I won't get too much into the wire itself. There are so many different kinds. Generally speaking, if you're buying a copper cable, you're good. If you buy a cable that says CCA, that is copper clad aluminum, it is an aluminum cable that's been coated in copper. That's bad. Don't do that. It won't go as far as a copper cable. It won't have as much data throughput as copper cable. It's just all around bad. As far as pricing goes, the Cat6 cables and the Cat5e cables are going to be very similar in price. You're going to find some places where a Cat5e cable is more expensive than a Cat6. That's simply because maybe you're shopping at a place where builders shop. Builders generally stick to 5e cables. Don't know why, they just do. And so supply and demand, 5e is probably more expensive there than a Cat6 or a Cat6a. I generally stick with Cat6. So we're going to be building this today. We're just going to terminate a cable like this. So to start with, this is the cable coming out of the box. It generally, you cut it, strip it, and do your thing. So inside of the cable, you're going to find twisted pairs. They are twisted together like this. And so you're going to be untwisting these pairs. Fully untwisted, you have the orange pair, the blue pair, the brown pair, and the green pair. So you have the 4 twisted pairs for 8 cables total. It's the same in a Cat5e and a Cat6. So these are the different pairs I have sitting here, so you can see them, green, orange, blue, and brown. My cable has a core. The core is a sort of plus-shaped plastic thing that goes in the middle of the cable. It's just to give it more strength so that when you bend the cable, you can't really kink the wires too bad because it won't bend that far because the core, right? So the core helps it to protect the cables a bit more. Yours doesn't need a core. It may not have a core. That's fine. So yeah, let's get started. So this tool is super important. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this is the tester. We'll get to that in a minute. That's to test the cable when we're done. So this tool here has a section here. You can see it says cut. We're going to cut using that section. We're going to strip it using this section here. And then we will terminate using this section here. So first thing you do, put the cable in and cut it. The reason you do that is because you might have been pulling this through an attic or whatever. You may have damaged the ends of the cable, whatever it is. Just cut it so you have a nice clean cut to work with. Next thing we're going to do is we put it into the trim area. We crimp it all the way down as far as it'll go. And then we simply spin the tool around the wire, right? Take the tool off and then pull really hard. That comes off. This is your jacket. You don't need that. You can throw it away. Some people use it to untwist the wires. Not necessary. This is called a pull string. Not all cables have a pull string, but if you do, it's so that if you pull like this, it'll rip through the jacket and it'll allow you to pull the cables out further. I would rather just use a tool to remove the jacket. So generally speaking, I snip the pull string off. So I snip that off, get rid of that. So far we've taken off the jacket and the pull string. Next, I sort of flare out the different twisted pairs so I can get to the core more easily. And then I'm going to cut the core out because you don't need the core out here. The core is only for protecting the wires that are in the wire. So it's plastic, so I just sort of cut halfway through it and then yank really hard to rip the other piece off. And there you go. Then now the fun part. Now you untwist the cables, right? So you want to untwist your cables so that they're all separated out. There are different ways of doing this. Generally speaking, we all have fingers. We can all do this. It sucks. Whenever you're doing a lot of cables, I have behind me here, I have an umbilical right above my head that has 48 cables coming out of the ceiling. And I've done this to all of them. So generally speaking, you can untwist them. Some people like to take the jacket that they cut and slide it in there and just spin it around as it goes down, and it untwists it for you. You have to kind of get it started a bit to do that. Greens and blues are twisted more than browns and oranges, so they're a bit harder to do this with. But generally, you can take the casing and spin it around. It saves the tips of your fingers from getting beat up doing this over and over and over. But that's generally it. And there you go. Now you have 8 untwisted wires. Next thing you want to do is you want to straighten these out. Now, some people will take the edge of some scissors or something and they'll slide it in there, and then they'll just grab the cables and pull the scissors down it so that it straightens them out. That's one way of doing it. If you don't want to hurt your fingers again, that's a great way of doing it. I just generally take my thumb, I bend this at a 90-degree angle and pull, right? And it takes a few times doing that, especially on the green and blue pairs, because those are twisted more. And eventually you'll get all of those sorted out and straight. And the reason we want them straight is because curly wires have a hard time going through the RJ45 connectors. So I'm going to get an RJ45 connector here. And if you look here, if you put the RJ45, if you try to put the curly wire through it, really has a tough time getting in there and going through it. That piece kind of got in, but it hit another kink in the wire, and now it won't go any further, right? So it's really difficult with curly wires to do anything. So you have to straighten them out. Once they're straightened out, they'll be able to go through the connector thing more easily, right? So if I put this in here now, and well, I guess I need one that has a straight edge. But yeah, if you put this in, it should pass through more easily. There we go, get it started. So now you can see it goes through more easily because it's a straight wire, which is fine. So next thing, we have to know what order we're going to put these in. You'll see here that you have a type A and a type B. So the type A starts with green stripe. Type A starts with green stripe, goes green, orange, blue, orange, brown. The type B goes orange, green, blue, green, brown. So they go in a different order. The purpose for this is there are 2 standards, an A and a B. If you terminate one side of your cable as an A and one side of your cable as a B, that's called a crossover cable, right? It's used in certain IT applications, not very often though. Generally speaking, you stick to the same type on each end. So if you do the one end with a B, do the other end with a B. That's an internet cable, right? Same with A. If you do one end with A, do the other end with A. Most people in most settings, I find, generally use the B. Don't know why, but they do. So the B type starts with orange, and So starting with orange stripe, you go stripe, solid, stripe, solid. You start with orange stripe, go orange, and then you go green stripe, blue, blue stripe, green, brown stripe, brown. So that's the order of B, right? And so what I've done is I put them in that order, right? From orange stripe to orange, green stripe, blue, blue stripe, green, brown stripe, brown. So I put them in the correct order according to the chart that's on my tool, right? So if I look at the chart, yep, that matches. Green stripe, blue, blue stripe, green, yeah. So that matches up. Then what you do is, or what I do, is I take these fanned out like this and I start to group them together. And then when I have them grouped together like this, I'm squeezing right here the whole time to keep them from moving around too much. I want to keep them in that same order. So right up here against my finger, they're in that correct order. But you'll notice as they come out, they sort of start crossing and stuff. So what I do is I hold down with my other hand and I wiggle back and forth, right? As I pull out, I wiggle back and forth. And what this is doing, hopefully, is creating a nice, even, and straight grouping of cables in the correct order. If I look at it, it's still orange stripe, orange, green stripe, blue, blue stripe, green, brown stripe, brown, right? Now, the tips are still flared out a bit. So what we're going to do to make it fit into this easier, to the RJ45, we're going to cut these like so. We're going to slide this RJ in. Now here's a trick to pay attention to. When you go to slide these in, we've organized them starting from orange and going to brown, right? But if you look at your tool, the RJ45 connector has a little tab on it, right? On the top. And so that little tab on the top goes in a very specific direction into the tool, right? So if you put the tab in with the tab facing the correct way, then look at it, now it's showing that, okay, even though the number 1 starts with the orange, I should have that on the right-hand side. So this has to like flip over. So what I generally do is I organize it to where the orange lines up with the orange, right? And then I take that connector and I just put it through in that direction. In this case, if the orange is on the left, then the tab faces out, right? If the orange is on the right, then the tab faces in. Very important to get that correct. So what you end up wanting to do is once you get that on there, then you look again, double check your work, right? Orange stripe orange, green stripe blue, blue stripe green, brown stripe brown. We're good. Now we pull this connector, this RJ45, all the way onto the jacket. And the trick here is that there is a little piece, this piece here on the RJ45 that is going to get crimped into the jacket. So the jacket needs to go past that piece back there that's going to be crimped, right? So what I've done is I just push all the way until the jacket is as far up as I can get it. And then you put this into the tool, flip it over so it fits, put it into the tool like so, and it'll click in. You heard the click. And I usually just come over here and pull these, make sure they're straight in the tool, and then just squeeze the tool all the way and then let go, and it pops out. And now it has pushed this piece right here down, and it has crimped it to the jacket. You can kind of see there. And so now we have a crimped RJ45. So we got to do that to the other side of the tool, or to the other side of the wire. So then we would just go over here, cut another side like this, and get after it, do the next side. Now I already have a completed one here. And what I want to show you is if we take the completed one and we have our tester. So this is a tester, and we just simply hit data on the tester. This is the remote for the tester. And once we hit data, you'll see it pops up with a bunch of open lines 1 through 8. So what we're wanting to do is put the remote onto one end of the cable, right? And then take this side and put it in the other end. This other side here is for a phone line. So this is for your RJ45s. That's for coax, which is TV. And once you put it in, you should immediately see whether or not it passes. If you have checked both of your ins as you terminate, you double check, always be checking that, make sure the wires are still in the right order, then they would show up with that bottom row matching the top row, right? If you miswire something, the bottom row will not match the top row. The top row will always say 1 through 8. The bottom row will tell you whether or not something's miswired. So if you accidentally did a type A on one side and type B on the other, then some of these numbers will be mix matched, and it'll actually tell you with codes up top whether or not it passes. But in this case, we passed, we got them all wired correctly, and we're good to go. So that's pretty much it as far as wiring up Cat6 cables. Pretty straightforward. The tools you're going to want to go and look for going to be copper cutters and a pass-through termination tool. I got both of these, I think, at Lowe's or Home Depot. Pretty easy to find. They also sell the in pieces, the RJ45s, at that same place. So yeah, that's pretty much terminating a Cat6. You know, I'd probably do hundreds of these a week, and it's one of those skill sets that any IT person really needs. So yeah, go and find some cables. You can find old cables, new cables. You can go buy some cable from Home Depot or wherever and get yourself a termination kit and just practice. Practice makes perfect, especially with this. I've done it so much. I have type A and type B memorized, right? So I know looking at a wire, oh, that's type B wiring because it starts with orange, right? Or, oh, that's type A wiring because it starts with green. So yeah, get out there and practice, and it'll be easy.